Thank you for the rousing ovation. I got to go back just for a second before we continue on. By the way, as you may have picked up, Rob Compton is one of my best buddies in the world. He puts old pictures of me on the screen. I put old pictures of him on the screen. We kind of go back and forth. I want to make sure before we go any further, Rob mentioned the Jason Knoll Most Outstanding Participant Award. 10 years ago, this tournament started as a 4-person tournament, 2-on-2, 4 young ladies. My daughter, Brooke, who is behind the screen running the sound for us, and Jason's daughter, Hannah, were 2 of the 4. And this would not be possible 10 years later. We've got to recognize, Jason, would you stand up? Where's Jason Knoll? Jason Knoll. Co-founder of the Joshua Cup. Okay, so a little bit, I'm only going to talk for about an hour and a half, so we're going to move this thing through a little bit. We got to get to so we put the player introductions at the end, so you kind of stay and at least pretend like you're kind of into this. Thrive, step-by-step golf, what in the world? How do these kind of connect? Well, I want to show you. I know you're sitting on the edge of your seat. I can feel it. So Thrive is the ministry that my wife and I run, and underneath Thrive, we have several ministries. We have an individuals and family ministry. This is where step-by-step golf falls. So if you wonder kind of the connection between the two, that's where we see step-by-step golf. Marriage ministry, you're going to see a picture here in just a minute. Organizations and teams, companies, teams. I'm going to show you some pictures of that as well. An international mission. Rob talked about work we do in Peru as part of the Thrive mission, and then also something called Memory Makers. If you know anything about a golf tournament in Augusta, Georgia in April, you're going to want to pay attention to this, okay? I'll come back to that in just a minute. Here's a couple of pictures I want to show you of these ministries, and it's actually going to start with about a 3-minute video. I didn't think I would get emotional this early, but I'm emotional. And part of this is because you're going to see my wife in action. As a speech therapist, we didn't necessarily know that we could do speech therapy as part of this ministry. Captain Hunt came in and mentioned as he walked in, he goes, what else do you guys do? I mean, you kind of do this, kind of do this. We want to kind of make sense out of that. But we have had an unbelievable connection that only God could make through a golfer from a college tournament that we sponsored, and he connected us to a family in the middle of Texas about 2 months ago to a man who had had a stroke. And they could not afford speech therapy. And this mutual connection connected us, and I want you to see his wife speaking about how Thrive helped him.
My name's Christy Lee. My husband's Vincent Lee. He had a stroke December 11th. He talked it all. He couldn't even say water, hi, bye, nothing. He started working with me now. He can talk almost any full sentence. But now he enjoys it. He connects with her very well. And she's helped him a lot with where he is today. Because before he couldn't really speak at all. They've been doing this on their own time, not taking any money from us at all, doing this through the ministries, and being a blessing to me and my husband.
So let's warm up by doing, let's do the days of the week. Let's start with the days of the week. You ready? Ready?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Very good. Open the
door.
Good. Turn on the
light.
Very good. All right. Let's try it again. Turn on
the light.
Very good. Very good. Pass the
Pass the salt.
Okay. Good.
So,
Very good.
so,
All right. Left and
right,
up and
down,
east and
west.
good. Okay.
Okay.
What do you have going on today? What's on your agenda?
I'm watching the Super Bowl.
Watching the Super Bowl. Who do you want to win?
49ers. I'm grateful for her, and I'm grateful and a blessing, and I appreciate it.
Well, it's been a huge blessing for me too. So it's cool how God works. Because what you were doing to bless, what I was trying to do to bless you, you ended up blessing me too. So that's how God moves, isn't it?
I cry every time. I cry every time he says it's a blessing. Because he had a stroke in Alvarado, Texas in the middle of December and could not speak. And a gentleman that we met at a golf tournament in December of 2019 connected us. And Leslie made herself available for the calling that God had. And I am so grateful and so thankful, Leslie, for what she has done and for Vincent's ability to express his appreciation. Guys, we feel a little bit of an obligation to kind of show you what we do. We have amazing, amazing donors. We have supporters. We have people, many of you in the room, that have used our services, and we feel obligated to share with you. I want to show you a little bit about, this is one of my favorite pictures. Many of you in the room are in this picture. We took this on the scoring deck at the clubhouse last year. One of my favorite pictures from our individuals and family, part of our ministry. Right here in Prattville, back in our men's tournament, the gentleman in the middle, Mark Nays. Mark Nays was our rules official at one of the events. He came to our fellowship and he gave his life to Jesus at the event and was baptized at the event. He would not walk through the door of a church because he was afraid and he was ashamed. He was ashamed of his past. And he came to a golf event and he heard a message and he responded. This was just from this past Christmas. Leslie got a text from a lady. Thanks again for saving our Christmas. My account has nothing in it, so it would have not happened if y'all hadn't come over. We didn't come over. God used us. God equipped us. God had all the authority and all the power. This was a lady in Hoover, Alabama, one of the most affluent counties in the country, and did not have a single can of food in her house when we walked in, and God provided Christmas. I had an opportunity to officiate a wedding almost a year ago in Charlotte, North Carolina. I will say this, I'm trying to get you guys to loosen up a little bit. I've officiated 4 weddings, and being a guy from Alabama, I have to be careful because one of the 4 was my sister and one of the 4 was my niece. You have to be careful when you tell people you married your sister. Come on, guys. Are you nervous about the tournament? Come on. That's like still one of my best ones. That's one of my best ones. 2 of my 4 married my sister and my niece. Have to be careful with that. I mentioned organizations and teams. 3 weeks ago, Leslie and I led a seminar on emotional intelligence with the Auburn University gymnastics coaching staff. 3 days later, they posted their highest score of the year. 1 week later, they beat Alabama by 0.7 of a point, which was the highest margin of victory in gymnastics. That's like 10 strokes, to the equivalent of golf. And I'm not saying it was because of the workshop. I'm just saying those were the 2 that followed, right? So, I kind of like to think that. International ministry, Rob mentioned Peru. We're taking a team to Peru in July. By the way, the shop in the back, we got some cool stuff back there. Every dollars spent goes to these ministries you're seeing on the screen. We've got Peru t-shirts, we've got jackets. Make sure you guys grab. We got some really cool stuff. Check that out. We're taking a team of 6 to Peru later this year. Brady, Batson, some of these guys, we're taking 6, and I think 5 of the 6 of us are here. So be sure and speak to these guys and give them your best about that. I got your attention maybe when I mentioned this little place in Augusta. We got to be careful talking about this. You know, they got kind of some rules, and we're not selling anything, by the way. But I see some people scanning the QR code. Probably would be a good idea. We have 4 tickets to Tuesday. Yeah, here we go. Now we're waking up. Now we're waking up. Todd, we don't want all the ministry stuff. The Augusta stuff got our attention. Think Make-A-Wish. Think Make-A-Wish. The QR code will allow you to submit, here's a key, you got to hear this, to submit a Make-A-Wish for someone else. Okay, that's the key, for someone else. If you guys can submit them for each other, I guess you could try that. But we need a description, we need an explanation. Think Make-A-Wish. We will be taking 2 people to the Masters on that Tuesday. By the way, I hesitate to tell you this because it didn't work out. Nick Dunlap, anybody know Nick Dunlap pretty good? Very close friend of the family. He was going to be here tonight to speak until he won a PGA Tour event, and that kind of changed everything. Nick will be there. We'll be able to see Nick on that Tuesday, is my hope. But we are close friends with Nick and hope to see him there. So, Memory Makers, check that out. We would love to hear you or receive an application from you if you would like to help make someone's wish come true. Okay, so here was the overview. Yeah, but what do you do? What do you do kind of thing? What do you do? Here's what we do. Here's our mission statement. We inspire and equip people to transform their minds, maybe sounds familiar to a Bible verse some of you may know, and pursue new ways of interacting with themselves in the world. Why pursue new ways? Why transform our mind? Why? Well, because I want you to see something. I'm going to give you a heads up. You're going to see this in a story we're going to tell here and just a little bit later on, because the patterns of this world lead to destruction. When our mindsets conform to the world, it leads to, what does that mean? What does it mean, our mindset, and what does it mean? Here's what it means. I want you to think about the way we think, the way we behave, and the way we respond in life leads to anxiety, stress, depression, broken relationships, addiction, lack of purpose, debt. These may be things, I know these are things your family is dealing with. These are things my family has dealt with and would be dealing with, and because of our mindset. As we are conformed to the world, it leads to destruction. Life is stressful. Here's how stressful life is. Did you guys see this in the news? This is how stressful. Trying to get you to laugh a little bit here too. This is how stressful life is. We got guys doing cannonballs. You saw this. Yeah, I thought I might hear a video chant. Video. I'm not showing a video. But I am showing you the headline in Leeds, Alabama, about 3 weeks ago. I know what your surprise is. I thought you were going to say Todd, he was from Florida, right? Because, you know, the Florida kind of headline. But I tell you this, it did cross my mind. Where's Michael Riggins? Michael didn't even know I was going to call him. Michael, where's Riggins? Riggins, I mean, you're close to Leeds. This wasn't you, was it? Okay, I want to make sure. All right. Yeah, I mean, that's how stressful, okay? But in all seriousness, here's what I want you to think about. And for the next few minutes, I want you thinking about what your family, guys, I love golf, and we're going to have a great golf tournament. But my hope and my prayer has been your family is changed as a result of being here this weekend. So the Thrive Roadmap, here's what I want you to think about. We have this thing called a mindset. And in our mindset, think of glasses. You take glasses, you put glasses on. And I'm going to go back and forth, by the way. This is more kind of for adults. I'm going to go back to the kids here. Stay with me in just a second. Our mindset, our value, our identity, our purpose. Our value is what we think we're worth. Right? You all have something in your mindset, every one of you, including me. We have come to a conclusion of what we think we're worth. We also have come to a conclusion about our identity. Every one of us has come to a conclusion about who we think we are. There are people in this world that have come to a conclusion about their own gender, and we could go on and on and on down the list. We have come to conclusions, every one of us, in our mindset of our value, our identity, and our purpose is why we think we're here. Now notice what I said. What we think we're worth, what we think our purpose, our identity is, and what we think our purpose is. Where did that come from? Guys, you got to get this. Adults, you may have to unpack this for your kids later. You got to get this. Where it came from was way before today. Your mindset today is an outcome of what came before. And on the day you were born with certain genetics, you were born with certain family systems, and you were born separated from God. That's not a choice you had. Every one of us were born into this world separated from God. That's where the beginning of this conform to the world comes from. It's called sin. On the day we were born, those things were true, and then we began going out in life. And we began having certain life experiences and certain life events. Growing up in a household with a very, very strong father who seemed to be in a better mood depending on my statistics from the baseball game. And so as a kid, I learned, this was an experience, as a kid, I learned that my baseball results were so powerful that they influenced my dad's moods. That's a lot of weight for a kid to carry. And that still carries with me today. That's what it means to have these life experiences and environments and past events and past education. That's what lives in our mindset. And guess what happens? We take the mindset out into the world. And so we see these roads, and we start navigating the roads with how we think, how we behave, and how we adapt. Those are verbs. Those are life skills. That's how we go about the world. And guess what? We find ourselves in certain situations and circumstances. Mental health, physical health, emotional health, financial health, relational health, career. These are outcomes. Teams. Guys, remember, marriages don't have problems. They don't. Marriages have two people that have problems. Families don't have problems. Families have people that have. Teams at work don't have problems. Teams at work have people that have problems. And it tracks all the way back to the left side, which is all of that junk, good and bad. Good, and we have a lot of good baggage too. We have a lot of good things that we've learned, a lot of great things that still sticks with us today, good and bad. This is what we call the Thrive Roadmap. Leslie and I took a couple of years to develop this. These are words you've probably heard over all the years. We believe in one piece of paper, in one view. We believe this is fairly powerful. I'll demonstrate this through a game we play. So you know, we don't always want to do these PowerPoint slides when we show up at an event. We like to play a game called the Song Game. And so kids, this is where you guys get to participate a little bit. Brooke, are you, we got DJ Brooke ready for us. We're going to demonstrate this, okay? So, for the players, here's what I want you to do. And parents, you're going to think of this too. I may come to you for this. Kids, I want you to think of a song that gets your heartbeat going fast. It gets you pumped. Now, not your walk-up song. We got the walk-up songs coming. Think of a different one. Think of a different. It might even be like an emotional song, not even a pump-up song. Maybe just a feel-good song. Maybe it reminds you of something from the past. Parents, I see you out there. We'll get some from you in a minute. And I need someone that might volunteer a song that says, "This song moves me." Anybody? Come on. Who we got? I'm gonna have to go to the parent. Will, I knew I could count on you. Will, what you got? You got it? Ghost by Bruce Springsteen. We got enough volume? This is like live DJing, so bear with us. Speaker's not working? Oh, awesome. I'll give you a second to connect it. No worries. Will, give Will Huddleston a round of applause. Will, come up on stage. Come on, Will. Come on. I'll meet you down here. Now, while she's connecting to the speaker, here's what I want you to do. Now, just in case they didn't hear you, have you ever been on stage before?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay. Rob's laughing. Tell the audience what your song was.
Ghosts by Bruce Springsteen.
Okay. All right. And what I want you to tell while the DJ is working on this, you're good in front of people, right? Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
What is it about that song that gets your emotions going?
I don't know. It's just kind of like upbeat, and it just kind of brings back the memory of me and my dad going to a concert together and just having a lot of fun.
Awesome. Awesome. Perfect. We got it? I see a lot of head nodding. Yeah, nice. All right, you can kill it. Very good. I need another one. Somebody give me another one. I got a microphone now, so people are not going to. Who we got? Come on. I'm going to challenge the Nationals. The Americans are one up. The Americans are one up. I'm going to have to go to the adults. Give me a song. I need a song. Uh-oh, I see a hand.
This is on the National Hunt. It's called Best Day of My Life by American Authors.
Best Day of My Life. So Maxwell's mom is giving Maxwell a song. All right, you good with that? You good with that? Best Day. You got it? Nice. Okay, now not only was Maxwell's song given for him, Maxwell's getting love from the back here. Can I give you the microphone or no? Not really. No. Right. All right. He's already been embarrassed enough, Mom. All right. How about one more? How about one of the adults? No. Where's Jason? No. Come on, no. Give me a good one. He's consulting. There you go. Yeah. Good song. Tribute to Toby Keith. Yep. Very good. Okay. Awesome. So here's what happens in the song game. Here's why we demonstrate it. Here's what happens in the song game. Okay. And this is unpacking a little bit of what we teach when we work with clients. There is something called a trigger event. Okay, I can tell your excitement. We're going to give some real life examples here in just a minute because you're on the edge of your seats, I can tell. There's a trigger event, and it triggers an emotion, okay? From that emotion, there's a response. Now, let me give you an example. In this case, we use the song. The song is a trigger event. And what we believe, what we teach that's part of the emotional intelligence, if you've ever studied that much, there are 7 core emotions. 7 core emotions: joy, anger, sadness, surprise, contempt, disgust, and fear. What's contempt, by the way? That's kind of a tough one. Sometimes we get that one confused a little bit. Anybody know? What is contempt? Real short. Anybody got a good definition? You can just yell it out. Contempt is I just don't care, which is kind of even worse than like anger, because it's so bad I just don't care. John Gottman, if you read John Gottman's a relationship expert. He says you can predict within 95% accuracy the future of a marriage based on the contempt level of the couple. That's how important contempt is. And from those, there are responses. Now look, we got 2 categories here. This is where the road begins to fork. Healthy responses and unhealthy responses to those emotions. So what happens is we see a trigger event, or we experience a trigger event. The trigger event triggers an emotion. We respond to that emotion. So let's look at a couple of life examples. Let's say maybe someone might 3-putt. It's not going to happen. Somebody said the greens were fast. Who said the greens? Who played today? We had some folks who played today said the greens were. Leo, were the greens fast today? Pretty fast? Pretty fast? Okay. All right, so maybe there's a 3-putt. So we're not going to go through all these line by line by line. What I want to do is put this kind of this tool in your hands. Trigger event. Now be thinking about, now what could have, if you three-putt, what emotion might be triggered? Anger. Could be anger, okay. And from that emotion, how do you respond? Take a look. Okay? Don't say it out loud, just kind of play this out, because I'm going to go through a couple of life events. How about the parent? It's an interesting question right here. Because parents, the same thing that happens when your child three-putts, yep, I see a lot of people laughing, you have an emotional response. And it's either healthy or unhealthy. Now let me make something really, really clear. Emotional regulation and emotional removal are different. I am not talking about removing your emotions. God gave us all 7 of those emotions for a reason. Fear's good. We need to fear a hot stove. Fear's good. Every one of these is good to a point. Too much or too little is bad. So let's watch as the examples go on. Right now, you're awaiting your tea time and your pairing. What I know for sure, and it's not just at this event, it's every event you plan, your tea time is going to trigger an emotion. Your pairing is going to trigger an emotion. It might be really good, it might be really bad, and then you're going to respond to that. What about the weather forecast? It's possible to be overjoyous when the weather's really, really good. Think about the response. It's also possible to be really down if it's really, really bad. We have kind of hit or miss in February. Here in Prattville, we don't know. But the weather event is a trigger to your emotions. You kind of seeing how this plays along? It's about, let's transition this into life a little bit. With one more golf, significant golf accomplishment. You win or you have a really bad round. It triggers an emotion. You then respond. By the way, under unhealthy, there's some not so really good examples that are really, really, really common for us. We've got to be really, really careful with. How about a bad grade in school? Triggers an emotion, triggers a response. Not only for the student, but for the parent. I know for a fact, parents, when the grades are posted, your emotions are triggered and you respond one way or the other. Oftentimes in that case, regulation or control. You do something to regulate or control. All right, so keep going. Play this out with me. Good grade in school, same thing. How about this? Fired from a job, which has happened to me. It triggered an emotion and it triggered a response. You see where this is going, right? We've got to really guard against those 2 right columns over there. Big promotion at work, same thing. So let's get some food for thought and let's begin to land this airplane here. Young people, I'm talking to you right here for just a second. Really zone in with me on this. If you spend a lot of, let's just pretend, if you spend a lot of time in your room or on your phone or playing Xbox, is it possibly an unhealthy response to a trigger event? I want you to ask yourself, what would the healthier response be? So, parents, I'm just giving you the tip here, that all of that time they spend in their room is not the problem. That's the outcome of what happened before. It's the outcome of something that happened before. You've got to get into what happened before, okay? Young people, here's another one. I'm just guessing here. I'm just guessing. If you use foul language, post inappropriate pictures, or use the internet appropriately, is it possibly an unhealthy response to a trigger event? The answer is, it very possibly is. Ask yourself, what's a healthier response? You see what's happening? These are real things, guys. These are real things in life, and there is some emotion that's been triggered by some event that happened before. Parents, I am asking you to get underneath that. Is your relationship at a place where you can look your kids in the eye and have a trusting conversation to find out what led to that? Those you see on the screen are responses of something that came before. Parents, if you notice unhealthy responses from your kids, is it possible, I'm going to say this with the highest degree of love and empathy that I can, and I'm speaking to the guy in the mirror when I say this, not only to you guys, but to the guy in the mirror as well. If you notice unhealthy responses from your kids, is it possible you're the trigger? Is it possible what came before? Remember, I grew up in a performance-based household. My responses to a very strong dad who watched every pitch I ever threw and every plate appearance I ever had. And by the way, I have a great relationship with my dad today. But that is what I remember as a child. And are you willing to ask your kid? If you think maybe you are you willing to ask your kid and then accept their answer without being defensive? If not, and that's hard, that's going to be hard. If not, here's what I want you to know. If not, then that's your unhealthy response called regulation. If you're not willing to ask your kids if it might be you, or what are you doing that's over the top, that's called regulation, which is an unhealthy response that maybe stemmed from your own trigger event years ago. And there's a name for that. I promise I'm going to get to some fun stuff here in a minute. I believe this is life-changing, and I believe this is eye-opening, and I believe you can be different, and God can change you from this weekend if you let this sink in. But you got to know there's a name for that. If your trigger events, parents, 30 years ago that you didn't deal with are coming out today, and you're over-regulating and over-controlling your kids, there's a name for that, and it's called generational sin. And it's going to pass on to your grandkids and their kids. I can trace back those issues that I observed and took through genetics, gained through genetics from my father. I knew his parents. And that's something I still have had to, when we talk about transforming our minds, that's what it takes, because all of that from birth and from life is so powerful. Okay, so parents, keep in mind the most influential role model in your kid's life is the parent of the same gender. Sons, it's the dad. Daughters, it's the mom. Moms and dads, you are the most powerful, the most influential role model in your kid's life. They are responding to the trigger events in their life the same way you do. They are modeling it from you. Now notice something, it works in reverse too. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Let's say you see these responses. Because guess what? The responses are visible. That's what we can see. So sometimes, what if we started there and came back one? What if we said, hey, I see the response. I see that they're in their room all the time, or that they're mad or angry. I wonder if they're in their room all the time because they're isolating, because they're angry about living in a performance-based home. So that would be a good way to start, is find the response and work it backwards as to what's causing it. They're not in their room as much as they are because they like being in their room. They're doing it to isolate from something. The emotional event that came from the trigger. You got to know, parents, what the trigger event is. All right, so what now? Remember, what now? The roadmap. Think mindset. Mindset, mindset, mindset. Leave here tonight thinking about how important the mindset is. And here are the two takeaways. I'm going to tell two quick stories and we're going to do the walk-up songs. Here's our two takeaways. Accept your broken mindset. Hey guys, I was going to do this and I thought it might cause too much of a stir. Think of those picture frames with the perfect family. I was this close to buying one of those picture frames and having Carson Daniel bring his driver up and smacking the picture frame and shattering it because we pretend, because you hit it like 360. So I figured, if somebody was going to hit it hard, you could, that's junk. That's junk. But we leave home every day with that mindset, right? I got to go tell the world how great we are. I got to go tell the world how perfect we are. Those are unhealthy emotional responses. But that's what we do. I'll skip the second one. And then ask for feedback. If you think maybe you are having unhealthy responses, ask the people around you. That's the part that gets really hard. And it gets really hard because of that generational sin that we're still dealing with. That's what makes it really, really hard. All right, so we're going to close with 2 examples. I've beat you guys down pretty good. I hope that's a little bit of unpacking and unveiling of what we believe and what we teach at Thrive, the system we see, that roadmap, the importance of the mindset, and the importance of changing what came before the mindset. Now, I'm going to tell you a quick story about 2 people that did that. I want to end with some uplifting stories. And here's the first story. Story number 1 of an example, and I am very, very proud of this young man. And I probably will get emotional as I tell the story. Does anybody know who this is? Other than the Huddlestons. This is Leo Huddleston, member of the Americans. I have had the great privilege of getting to know Leo and his family over the past few years. And I also had the privilege of caddying for Leo back in August at Pinehurst at the U.S. Kids Teen World Championship. If you're unaware of that, I'll let you know that you play the first 2 rounds, at least in Leo's age division, you play the first 2 rounds on Pinehurst number 4. The top half of the field plays the 3rd round on number 2. 15 to 18-year-olds, Leo was 15, so his goal was to make the cut. Make the cut, play on number 2. Leo made the cut on the number. We were watching the phone, the updates all afternoon. He made the cut on the number. He got to play Pinehurst number 2 the next day with me on the bag. And so this picture was taken the day before the first round. And I've labeled it when everything in the world was right. Now, I will say, the story is going to take a turn here for just a minute, and I have permission from Leo and his parents to tell the story. Because this is when everything in the world was right. Now this is walking up 18. Pinehurst number 2, this is 18 fairway. You see the clubhouse in the background. Leo has striped a drive. I think it was playing like 520 into the wind, par 4. Leo goes driver off the deck into the green and is sitting right in the front of the green. So this right here is what I call 5 minutes before the trigger. Leo's ball's right in front of the green in 2. There happens to be about 40 people. If you've been to Pinehurst in the last few years, you know there's something called the Deuce, the restaurant right behind the green. There's about 40 people. The sprinklers had been on all that morning. We're thinking, do we putt it? The pin's all the way in the back. Turtle shell green. Thank you, Donald Ross. I'll just say from there, Leo took an 8. This is 5 minutes after the trigger event. Because when he took the 8, I will just let you know that he had teed off, he had started on 10, so the back 9 was the front 9. He storms over to number 1 and tees off before his partners had finished putting out on 18. I had to put that part in. Goes and sits on the bench. And this is 5 minutes after the trigger. Now this is August of last year. Late July, I think it was. We play the front 9, which is his back 9. I'm caddying on number 2. Unbelievable opportunity. Leo didn't say a word to me for those 9 holes. Not a word. That was his unhealthy, emotional response. Didn't talk to Leo for a couple of weeks. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. A couple of weeks later, we had our men's event. It models the Joshua Cup. It's called the Memorial Cup. Rob and Leo played in the event at the golf course you will be at tomorrow. Same golf course. I'm standing there Saturday morning. Leo walks up to me. I don't know that I can say it. And Leo says, "Todd, I'm sorry." He looked me square in the eyes and said, "I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I don't even know what to say. I'm sorry." And I gave him a big old bear hug because that was the only thing in the moment. He didn't need any regulation. He didn't need any correction. He needed love. And I hugged him and I told him I loved him and I told him I forgave him. And guess what happens when you forgive? It's over. It's over. There's no baggage. It's over. It's as in my mind, it never happened. And we're good. And I told him we were good. And he won the MOP award at that event for having the guts to apologize and to change his mindset and say, I'd never heard him say, "I'm sorry." I've known him for 5 years. And he walked up and said, "I'm sorry." And he earned the most outstanding participant. Would you show your appreciation to Leo? Would you clap for Leo? Let me tell you about the second story. Anybody know who this is? I thought somebody might say Alexa Pano. And it is Alexa Pano. The Patriots visor is Alexa Pano. If you didn't know who Alexa is, if you've ever seen the Short Game documentary, Alexa's one of the 6 kids in the Short Game. She grew up with my daughter Brooke playing golf. That's my youngest daughter Brooke. Jekyll Island, I think all 3 of those are from Jekyll. We got the Pinehurst pictures like you guys probably, many of you guys may have. Here's Brooke and Hannah Nall. Jason, Misty, I thought this would bring back some memories. Hannah Nall there. And we met the Nalls when Brooke and Hannah were 6 years old. Played a lot of events together, as you're going to see here in just a second. 2013, their 9-year-old year, Brooke shoots 35 on the last day, finishes 8th in the world, T8 at Longleaf. Longleaf was way different back then. By the way, if you've been to Longleaf the last couple of years, it's you may still not like it. It's way better than it was. Pretty special picture there on the right. Brooke, as a freshman in high school, had Auburn, Florida, and Georgia following her. Auburn had already given a spot. Her fall year of her freshman year in high school, Auburn gave her a spot. And I want to show you how I know she could play. Because I kept her records. Do you see in the top left? Kindergarten. Second grade. Third grade. Fourth grade. Fifth grade. Sixth grade. Seventh grade. Eighth grade. Ninth grade. 10th grade. 11th grade. This is hard. Not because she quit golf, but because it changed our relationship. You may be saying, what happened? Well, Brooke was under the control of a dad with a faulty mindset. Golf's fantastic. I host a golf tournament. If you didn't know that, I host a golf tournament. We host a golf tournament, and I am so glad you're here. I am for junior golf. I am not for performance-based households. I am not for performance-based fatherhood. I am not for losing my relationship with my daughter because golf was so important that I tracked a spreadsheet every night for 8 years. I'm not for that. And so I want you to remember this. The patterns of this world lead to destruction. I told you earlier when I showed this, you would see it again. I love junior sports and I love junior golf. I do not love when daddies and daughters relationships and sons as well, moms and the whole family. This is a family unit thing, as many of you know. This is why minds must be transformed and we must pursue new ways. But I got some good news for you. Remember, we're landing the airplane. We celebrated with what Leo did. And I want to celebrate for a moment, if you will, indulge me. They just thought they came to a golf tournament. They didn't know they were going to get all this. We had some good times too, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Talk about, just for a moment or two, you made a decision last summer to get help. You needed to kind of unpack. We've talked a lot tonight about unpacking all that stuff over the left. Will you share just a little bit about kind of the unpacking?
Yeah, so as y'all saw, sophomore year of high school was kind of when I decided to take a break. I was at a point where honestly I had been doing a lot of thinking, trying to find the balance between doing something that I knew was hurting me because of the way that these triggers were affecting my emotions. And so trying to find the balance between that and also knowing that I knew if I decided to stop playing that it was probably going to result in a even more broken relationship with my father. And so I was trying to balance the thoughts between, okay, like, do I keep letting myself go through this, or do I risk completely losing a relationship at all? Because we were very close. We spent every day together on the golf course. We went to every tournament together. And so sophomore year was kind of when I was like, I just can't do this anymore. And I think the only reason that I was able to take a step of boldness to decide to put that away was because I knew that the Lord's sovereign and that the Lord has my dad's heart and that he was going to be able to prevail in that situation. So sophomore year was when I decided, all right, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. And what I expected is what happened. It went from a broken relationship to not a relationship. And senior year of high school, like right before I left for college, was kind of an aha moment. I kind of woke up one day and I was like, I don't really even have a relationship with my dad. I felt like I was honestly living in a house with a stranger. And it was just a really weird thing to realize. I went to college, which was good and bad. And then second semester of my freshman year was kind of when I realized, okay, like, I can't keep living this way. I was like, I can't wake up 10 years from now and not have a relationship with my dad. That wasn't an option for me. And so I decided it was time to go to a counselor. So I started going to a counselor, and she was incredible and just helping me sort through all my emotions regarding the situation. And one day she looked at me and she was like, "You're gonna talk to your dad?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." I was like, "It's funny because I'm not." She was like, "Yeah, you are." And so a few weeks later, I wrote him a letter, and I was like, at the end of it, I was like, I hope that I left it on his desk for another time, so I didn't have to be there when he read it. And at the end of it, I was like, I hope we can meet when I get home just to kind of talk through all this. And so I got home from my trip, and we went and got coffee and just unpacked for 3 hours everything I'd written. And this is a very lengthy letter because it was stuff I had been holding in for 6 years. And I think since then, it obviously has been a work in progress, but it's just cool to see the freedom that I think we both experienced and like those things being spoken out loud. I think there's power when things are spoken out loud. And it's also just such a testament to the Lord's perfect timing. I think if that would have been spoken a day earlier, his heart wouldn't have been in a position to receive it, and I wouldn't have had the words to articulate it in a way that would have had any good outcome from it. So since then, I feel like we've been able to be way more open and honest in our emotions, and kind of how he touched on earlier about the forgiveness. Like, I've forgiven him, he's forgiven me for the ways that I messed up in that as well. And so I think as a result of that, we are just able to have such a more normal and healthy relationship, but it would not have been possible without taking a step of boldness to assess the problems at hand. So we're still working on it, but it's getting there.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, babe. I don't know if any, I wasn't sure how these last few minutes were going to go. I didn't really think how this specifically was going to kind of come to a close here. And I don't know if any of this speaks to you guys. If it does, let me just close by saying this. I'm going to speak about my family, and this may be true. If any of this resonates with you, it's not a golf problem. It's a priority problem. Golf is a bad god. When golf is the god, that's called an idol. And I tracked those spreadsheets because Brooke's golf game was my idol. My dad had played football at Auburn in the late 60s. I played baseball at Auburn in the early 90s, and it was this perfect thing that my daughter's going to be a third generation Auburn athlete. And God said, oh, no. Transforming the mind is what it teaches us and helps us shift from those unhealthy responses to the healthy. So here's what we're going to do in closing. I'm going to pray for us in a very, what I believe, very special way. And when the prayer is over, here's what I would ask of you. We're going to take a very quick, fast 5-minute break. Restrooms back in the corner. The shop will be open so you guys can spend a bunch of money with Thrive if you wish and send a bunch of us to Peru. And we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we're going to get to the pairings and the walk-up songs. Here's what I'd like to ask. As we go into the break, we're going to pray. Kids, go stand next to your parents. Moms and dad, reach a hand out, touch their shoulder, put your arm around them. And bear with me. God, thank you for tonight. Thank you that even through a golf event, we can bring families together. As Rob said earlier, from 7 states, from 10 hours away, we can come to Prattville, Alabama, God, and honor you and ask you to be in control, and to ask you to change hearts, and to ask you to change our mindsets. God, would you get inside of these families? God, show them love, show them grace, show them forgiveness in whatever they may have going on. And it may be a lot more than what I've talked about. It may be a lot less than what I've talked about. But I know my family's been through it. And I know there are struggles and challenges, just like we saw earlier, anxiety and stress, dependency, broken relationships, lack of purpose. God, all of these things in life that are so hard. God, would you touch these families right now? God, as the adults lay their hands on their kids, God, I pray in Jesus' name, God, would you work through these families and help them be changed? God, this is only the work that you can do. It is not my words as a human being. It is not my power. It is not my authority. It is through the power of your Spirit. We pray these things in the name of Jesus. God, be with these families. Thank you for your love. And thank you for being here with us tonight. Let us feel you and draw closer to you than ever before. Be with these families this weekend and as we go beyond, God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you, guys. Thank you.